Hello, hello, hello. It's a normal Wednesday night here to do a preview of Florida, Tennessee. Nothing else going on at all. Oh, Will, are you as exhausted as I am? Because this is this has been a lot.
Yeah, my screen time, if you merge my phone and computer, I think it's north of 26 hours a day at this point. It's been Twitter and message boards for the past week and a half. And then today was even just crazy. It's just as crazy. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Also, I would like to point out, you see these lines on my forehead here as I'm messing my own hair up? The person in my comments today that told me I spent too much money on Botox, they'll know that that's a lie. Um, but I don't always read the comments, but I did. That was a bad decision. Okay, so we have a football game that is going on this weekend, even though we have a lot of other wild and crazy things going on in Gator Nation, which I'm sure we will talk about throughout the show because we can't help but check our phones, check the message boards. You guys are texting me and sending me things on Twitter. It's just this stuff is wild. But we do play Tennessee on Saturday. This happens to be one of my all-time favorite rivalries. I really despise that it's not happening the third week of September. I have major PTSD from 2001 when this game got moved to the first weekend of December because of September 11th. It's like reason 1 million to hate the terrorists. Florida lost that game. So I don't love where it's happening, but I do love the streak that Florida has against Tennessee. And it feels like there's just like ghosts that go in the swamp that just take care of business against Tennessee because they just can't. I don't know. They can't seem to get it done, but they are coming in ranked. They are coming in favored. Um, it's definitely going to be interesting. But Will, we really haven't even had a ton of time to talk about the Ole Miss game that happened last week. We spent a lot of time on Ole Miss, but just not on the game in the field. Um, what are your biggest takeaways from that game on the field?
I mean, so main was just that this team can really play with anybody. Even though you were beat up on both sides, you didn't have Caleb Banks, you didn't have a bunch of your receivers. You push a team who is now a playoff lock to the brink. And it really makes the whole season even more frustrating as a fan because you're looking at it like this roster, it's there to compete with anybody. And we've seen that. We played Georgia close, you beat Texas, you almost beat Ole Miss. But for certain reasons that we've discussed in depth before, it just hasn't happened. So looking at how they played against the Rebels, and also credit to the fans, man. I was there. Florida fans were loud. They were not a high percentage of that stadium, but they were noisy. Like when the team gives the fans a reason, even when they don't, to be honest, they're loud.
Yeah, we could hear it's great to be a Florida Gator through the TV. We could also hear move back, you suck. So,
Mhm.
shout out to the fans for sure. Okay. So this team is just an enigma. I think you could say that about a lot of Billy Napier's teams, them kind of being an enigma. And one of the hallmarks is that I don't feel like they give up easily. But we thought maybe they gave up against Kentucky. We thought maybe that's when the dam broke. The defense just wasn't in it. It was just Lagway was terrible. And then we see this team come out with all this fight against Ole Miss. Lagway played better. Defense played much better. It almost makes the Kentucky game more frustrating for me, as opposed to like being like, yes, okay, this team is still alive. I'm like, damn it, where were you last week? This is not cool. But how motivated do you think UF is these last two games? There is so much outside noise, lots of stuff being talked about, but also now the possibility of a bowl game is off the table.
I do think they have a pretty good reason to come out hot, right? Because the crowd is going to be good. It's another sellout. You have
Yes.
Tennessee in the building, and there will be that energy and that buzz in that stadium, even if it's not for what's on the field, just because of what's going on outside. And having Tennessee and FSU logos, in the swamp, it should get those guys up because I was only 7 months old the last time Tennessee won there. I wasn't even sentient. So like the fans are going to get up and know like this is the game that we have to win. And Florida State is Florida State. And we joked last week a little bit about auditioning for Lane when they were in Oxford. There's kind of truth to that because these guys are auditioning for the next head coach, whether that will be whoever comes to Gainesville or for other coaches if they transfer out. So they're going to be giving a good effort, and I think that you'll see the team come out and play pretty hard.
You were 7 months old and I was 15. And this makes me feel incredibly, incredibly old. Okay. So I asked you this last week, but do you think that there's a chance that we may see Tramel Jones more this week since he can play and still maintain his red shirt now?
I think maybe he could be featured a bit, but DJ showing signs of actual quarterbacking last week helped, right? Like he was good on some deep balls. He still missed a couple of easy throws that were very frustrating. You saw some footwork issues. Rolling out to his left is just an absolute disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But I do think he played well enough against Ole Miss to, unless we get a Kentucky-like performance out of him this week, that you'll see him play most of the game. And could Tramel come in spots? Maybe. I think that having the red shirt is definitely a big factor there. But I would expect that we see mostly Lagway this week.
Okay, so let's move on to the opponent. Tell me your overall thoughts on Tennessee so far. They had that close loss to Georgia, losses to Alabama and Oklahoma. Those losses effectively ended any hope of another college football playoff bid, but they have taken care of business against teams not in the top 10.
Yeah, so I mean, this offense is absurd. They're the best in the SEC in yards per game and in points per game. Joey Aguilar has a great connection with those wide receivers, and they're really good running the ball, right? The conception of a Josh Heupel offense, a lot of the times it's, oh, they're throwing the ball around. The power running game is really good. They have a very good balance attack, both on the ground and through the air, but their defense is an entirely different story. It's 14th in the SEC in yards allowed, 15th in points allowed, and it is the worst pass defense in the conference. So they very much want to play games up in the 30s, even the 40s. It's always a track meet with Tennessee. So their offense, really, really good. Their defense is really, really bad.
Let's talk a little bit about Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar. So he's been a pretty pleasant surprise for Tennessee. There was obviously the quarterback sweepstakes that took place last offseason. Nico left Tennessee, goes to UCLA. Joey actually comes over from UCLA to Tennessee. I think it's fair to say that Tennessee actually won the quarterback sweepstakes, even though, at the beginning, it didn't look like that was going to be the case. Let's talk about him a little bit. He has been, I think, a bright spot for the Vols this season.
Yeah, he has filled the stat sheet way more than I thought he was going to in the preseason. He's almost at 3,000 yards already, throwing for 22 touchdowns. But when he was coming up from App State over the summer when I was scouting him out, my biggest questions were completion percentage and interceptions. And he's kind of fixed that completion rates. The interceptions are still a problem, especially in big spots. He threw 2 against Georgia, 2 against Mississippi State, had that 100-yard pick six against Bama, and threw 2 versus Oklahoma. So he's going to throw for like 300 yards and 3 scores. He's also going to give the ball away. And those picks have been a major reason why Tennessee has dropped several games. So you can kind of live with it to an extent because of how much he's producing. But you're seeing those mistakes pop up in spots where Tennessee can't really afford it, and it's come back to bite them.
Let's talk a little bit about his weapons and maybe targets that he's going to look for. Florida fans might want to be aware of.
Yeah, so I mean, he's got a great group of wiles in front of him. I mean, Chris Brazzell is one of my favorite receivers in the draft this year. He's a 6'5", freakazoid kind of guy, and he's complemented really well by Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews. All three of those guys have more than 40 catches, so they attack you in a lot of ways through the pass. But then running the ball, they have a 3-headed monster. It's led by Deshaun Bishop, who's already scored 10 times, and then Star Thomas and Peyton Lewis are back there also. They have scored 7 and 6 times respectively. So it really is a very balanced attack, like you'd expect for the best offense in the conference. And they can do it both on the ground and in the air.
Let's talk a little bit about Tennessee's trenches. Let's start with the offensive line. Give me some thoughts there.
So they've protected Aguilar really well. Only allowed 13 sacks on the season, which is good for second in the SEC, and they have a very good grade when it comes to pass blocking. They're not quite as effective run blocking, but you're seeing their running backs kind of make up for that. Like they're producing very well, they're running it well. But if you're going to take advantage of this offensive line, it will be in running downs where you can kind of win your one-on-ones against their guards and tackles. They had a lot of question marks coming into the year, right? Like who's going to play, a lot of youth, some injuries. They've come together really well. They've gotten better as the year's gone on. So it's a very solid unit.
I think that one of the biggest things that UF fans could be looking for to take advantage of would be the matchup between Florida's wide receivers and Tennessee's secondary. We had Sports Talk Jay on earlier this week, and that was one of the things he kept talking about is all the injuries to that secondary unit. Do you think this is a place where UF really can take advantage? Because the wide receiver position is obviously one where Florida has a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I mean, they better. Because Tennessee's secondary has been absolutely demolished by injuries this year, losing both Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson. They're allowing 260 passing yards per game, which is worse than the SEC. They've allowed the most total passing yards by over 100, and they've allowed 16 touchdowns through the air. So hopefully, Vernell Brown III is questionable this week, so hopefully he's come back into play. But even then, we saw TJ Abrams and J. Michael Sturdivant play pretty well against Ole Miss, who has a very good secondary. So even though Florida's missing both Wilsons at receiver, they still have the playmakers to where you can really, if you can throw it on a good unit, you can definitely throw it on a bad unit, especially at home. So I do think that Florida receivers, they should be able to produce, get separation, and give some easy throws for Lagway downfield.
What should UF fans be the most concerned about with Tennessee?
Really just their ability to score damn near 100 points if they're in rhythm. They put up 41 on Georgia, 41 on Mississippi State, 56 on Kentucky. I mean, when they are on, they're impossible to stop. And the way that you can counter that if you're Florida is going to be with a solid pass rush. Now, George Gums is hurt. He's out for the rest of the year. Caleb Banks coming back, even though he is on the interior, helps that a lot. And if you're able to pass rush Aguilar, not give him time, you can lead him into some mistakes, take away some of those deep shots. And you have to just play smart in the secondary if you're Florida. Because Tennessee, they're going to throw the ball effectively, right? You're not going to shut it down entirely. But you have to be willing to let them catch passes in front of you and just contain that and not allow the massive explosives that can really change the game.
We talked obviously about DBs and wide receivers, and that might be an advantage for Florida. But does UF have any other advantages?
I think if you look at Tennessee's offensive line, I said it was good, but Florida's pass rushers, like individually, they're really good. Tyreek Sapp is still Tyreek Sapp. You've seen Jaden Woods make a lot of big time plays, and having Caleb Banks back, I'm pretty sure he's going to be back. I believe, he's not on the injury report. I don't believe. Yeah, sorry, quick fact check. So Caleb Banks will be back. So I do think that they can take advantage of their offensive line a bit, even though it is a strong unit, because that really is Florida's strength. And offensively, they don't really have a massive edge other than receiver, but I do think that receiver is a big enough edge to where you'll see it be really effective.
We're going to get a prediction out of you, but I do want to read some of these comments over here on the side before we do. Let's see. Oh, someone was asking about the winning streak. Whoever wrote the title must be slow. No, we're talking about the streak.
Yeah, TJ.
In the swamp, guys. It has been a very, very long time since they've won there. Okay. Let's see. Good luck on Saturday. 20 years of beating Tennessee in the swamp. Damn right. Which team's Florida facing? That would be Tennessee. We can beat Tennessee Gators by 1,200. SEC will make Florida face Texas A&M on the third Saturday in September before Tennessee again. Probably facts. Junior, we went to undergrad together. Okay. Nick Renfro, I think our defense locks them down, and we score 35 for the first time against a Power 4. Listen, here is hoping we can score more than 24 even without a defense out there. It depends on which offense shows up, I think. But, yeah, I do think Florida's capable. Coach selection, much more important for Florida than winning this game. If Florida gets it wrong, it could be a decade of 7-5, and Tennessee knows it well. Yes, listen, we do this live every Wednesday before game day. We love it. We're excited about a game coming up. Will and I both know that whoever we hire is definitely more important than whether or not we win this game, but we still want to win this game. Zach says, I don't see us losing next 2 home games to rivals. We beat both by 10 plus. That is ballsy. If we actually make adjustments, we can. Our offense staff is still garbage. If we show up, it'll be huge. We need these 2 wins big time. We do. Anyone else concerned about our seniors leaving and the transfer portal? I think that depends on who we hire as a head coach. Bring it Saturday night, Gator Nation. It's another vol loss in the swamp. I do think the swamp will be hopping. Particularly like if we have any kind of clarity on anything by then, which I'm not saying we will, but gotta be very careful what we say here. It ends up all over social media. We're going to be upset because we still can't score in the fourth quarter. John Gruden would be an excellent coach for a head coach. I'm not. Clean house. Keep the anchor guys if we can. We'll win the first half. Let's not wait till 2026 to defend the swamp. Yes, that is true. Let's win it now. From what I'm hearing, players are staying put for Kiffin. I do think Florida retains their roster for the most part if Kiffin comes. So, and I do think that unless there's a coaching, nothing is going to happen until after the Egg Bowl, more than likely, unless Ole Miss forces his hand before that. But, I think that our guys are going to at least hear him out. And I think Kiffin would be a hard person to say no to. Now you come up with, if you end up with the 5th coach on your list, then maybe you do lose your roster and that's a little harder, but fingers crossed that doesn't happen. A bunch of people want Gruden to coach. I'm good without Gruden. He can do it somewhere else. I'd love to watch it. I just don't want it to be here. No excuse for scoring 0 in the second half against Ole Miss. I think that they made adjustments and we didn't. And that's part of that. But I still our defense still played very strong. the second half. Lane will be gone as soon as a better job opens up. I don't know what a better job would be, though. And especially for him, where I really do believe, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he ends up at LSU, but I do feel like Florida's the top of the mountain for him. And if that's the case, I don't know that there is a better job for him. Gruden has an old school intensity, and I think this team, yeah, I mean, he does. But I talked to Meyer about this week. It's really hard for those guys with that old school mentality to coach now because the players are mercenaries, and I think a little bit more soft, and you can't do mental gymnastics with them about making sure that you can afford your mom's light bill. So you need to work hard enough when you're getting paid, a couple $1 million to be there. Doesn't work exactly the same. I just want to see 5 wide this week. Tired of seeing 24 tight ends. I can go the rest of my life without seeing 2 tight end sets 80% of the time. Yeah. Lots and lots of comments tonight. If Kiffin comes, it'll be a long-term contract, in my opinion. You got to think it's at least 5 years. No one giving Billy G respect. Everyone wants to sell on the farm, and we have our own hometown favorite right here. I love Billy Gonzalez. I would be a massive fan of keeping him on this staff, but I'm also not one of those people that thinks that you should tell a coach who to keep and who not to keep. I think that they've got to live and die by their own staff choices. But I think Billy Gonzalez is auditioning too, and I don't know this for a fact, but it is hard to convince me that Billy Gonzalez wants to be a head coach somewhere because I feel like it would have happened. He was a wide receiver coach on multiple national championship teams. You're telling me he didn't have the opportunity to go be an offensive coordinator somewhere? I have to kind of believe he's chosen the path that he wants because his career trajectory doesn't make sense otherwise. He's been too good for too long to not. I mean, do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, what you said is, you nailed it. He's been doing it for so long at a high level to where those opportunities definitely came calling. I mean, people are always looking for, the assistant to elevate to a coordinator to a coach. Like, those people are out there. And the ones that want to do it. And the ones that don't, you see what Billy G did, where he just keeps being as good as he is at what he loves doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he is. When you just think about the list of players that he's developed at Florida, it was crazy. I heard someone told Scott Strickland Billy Napier's unemployed, and Strickland called him to see if he'd be interested in a head coaching job. Nick isn't coming back. He doesn't want to deal with the NIL stuff. Saban's not coming out of retirement. Urban's not coming out of retirement. It's a different ball game now. If Lane does come, DJ's Gator career is over. Lane doesn't take on reclamation projects. I don't know that I agree with that. I think Lane does like him. I think DJ and Lane, if Lane comes, have to have some heart-to-hearts, and DJ has to decide, do I need a fresh start, or is this head coach the fresh start that I needed right here in Gainesville? That kind of remains to be seen. I am not writing off a 20-year-old kid that hasn't gotten great coaching. Who's injured. Yeah. Billy G is charismatic for sure, but yes, it seems our most productive wide receivers were transferred the past couple years. I mean, Dallas Wilson's not a transfer. And VB3 is not a transfer, and Trey Wilson wasn't a transfer. So I don't know. None of those guys were transfers. And when you think about the players that he recruited to Florida, Percy Harvin, that was back well before transfers. Percy Harvin, David Nelson, Riley Cooper, the list, there's a 1,000,000-mile list of really good wide receivers that he's recruited to Florida. But I have always been a Billy Gonzalez supporter. If you've watched this channel for years, you know that I stand Billy G. Kiffin will clean house. Ole Miss chats are saying they should offer the job to Pete Golding. That's a win for Florida. I have heard his name mentioned, and I have heard he wouldn't be coming if Florida came. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Maybe. All right. We've read all the comments. I want you to give me a twofold prediction. First, tell me the score of the game. Second, tell me who's going to be Florida's next head coach.
Yeah, so in this game, I think both secondaries get hit a lot. Like, I think there's a lot of downfield passing by both teams, but I trust the rest of Florida's defense more, and I trust the swamp to get to Aguilar. I trust that he'll make some mistakes. This game might just come down to, I think both quarterbacks will throw picks. It might just come down to who throws the one last. But Florida, their crowd, they have a reason to be energetic. We know what the Swamp does to Tennessee. I like Florida a lot in this spot. Give me like 34-28, a high-scoring game, pretty back and forth. I think the Gators pull it off, and I'm going with my guy. I think Florida closed the deal on Lane Kiffin. I mean, they've been all in on him the entire cycle, right? If they don't get him, doomsday scenario, I don't know what you do even as a program. So I think they're all the way in on Kiffin. I do think the ties that he has to the university already with his family and everything, he'll be strong enough to, be better than the LSU offer, be better than staying at Ole Miss. So I think that Florida does get their guy. They get Kiffin.
I love it. Okay. It's like he's talking to AI. He answers the no questions and doesn't talk about the yes questions. Are we talking about Lane? And I mean, I guess he does. He he's gonna only tell us what he wants us to know, which is very little. His press conference today was really interesting. But yeah, I will give my score prediction at the end of the show. I agree about the picks, and I'm kind of interested / somewhat scared to see how that ends up for us. But okay, it's time to play our favorite game before we let you go. I want to thank Sleeper for their support. Make sure if you are downloading the app, you use the code PEAK for a 100% match up to $100. That is code PEAK, P-E-E-K, on the Sleeper app. Terms and conditions apply. So see Sleeper's terms of use for more information. This is our more or less game. So I'm going to tell you a player. I'm going to tell you a scenario here. You're going to tell me more or less. Okay. Joey Aguilar, 279.5 yards passing. Are we going more or less? 279.5.
Yeah, I'm saying more because I do think he'll throw picks in this game. But even when he does throw picks, he produces. He had 371 on Georgia, 393 on Oklahoma. Just video game numbers when that offense is in a rhythm. I believe they'll be good enough to put up some good stats, even though they lose. So I'll go more for Aguilar there.
Okay. Is DJ Lagway going to have more or less than 228.5 passing yards?
Yeah, I'm saying more. I do think that flight radars are going to pick up this game with how much passing offense there is. I think both secondaries are weak in certain spots to where the receivers are open downfield. So I'll say more for Lagway also.
All right. Our guy, Jaden Baugh. More or less than 0.5 anytime touchdowns?
I got a third trait more for you. He's just a total wrecking ball, especially when he's at the goal line. So when you get in close and the passing windows get tighter, you just got to run the ball. So I'll go more for Jaden there.
All right. Deshaun Bishop, more or less than 58.5 rushing yards?
This is my first less because Tennessee, they're going to run the ball a good bit still, but they love throwing it downfield. And the last two SEC games for Bishop, he's been 48 and 38, still with his usual carries. And with Florida getting Caleb Banks back, it's a big run stopper, so I'll say less for Bishop.
Okay. Chris Brazzell, more or less than 4.5 receptions?
Yeah, this was a more. I mean, being 6'5" as a receiver, just a total nightmare for defenses. He's hit that mark of 4.5 in all 3 games this year. Oh, sorry, in all but 3 games this year. And Florida fans should get used to seeing number 17 a lot this week. So I'll go more for Brazzell.
Okay, Miles Kittlesman, more or less than 23.5 receiving yards?
I'm going less here. Miles is a great player, and he has hit this mark more often than not. But I think that Tennessee is going to press their advantage down the field as opposed to the intermediate passing game. So I'll say less for Miles.
Okay, we're going back to Baugh. More or less than 84.5 rushing yards?
I like him to score. I don't love this number, so I'm going to say less because Florida's going to be looking to pass it more. And he's only hit 85 4 times this season. I don't think this week is number 5, so I'll go less for Jaden Baugh there.
All right. There you have it, our more or less game. Will, we appreciate you for playing and for hanging out with us. Tell everybody where they can find you and listen to your work.
Yeah, I'm at W Thomas Sports on Twitter, covering this coaching carousel to the best of my own ability. And then Tailgate Talk SEC on YouTube and podcast, doing previews, recaps, and all of it.
All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us. I'm sure I will text you throughout the weekend. Hopefully it is a good one for multiple reasons for us.
Thanks, Ellie.
All right, Gator fans, before I get into it, I did see a couple comments. A couple of you guys commented about the Urban interview. He is going to be honored at UF this weekend. That is very exciting. I do feel like maybe this is testing the waters to see how he would be received for the Ring of Honor, which I think he absolutely deserves to be in. Eric and I are hoping to meet up with him. And, every time I talk to him, and I know this about him, I have known him for more than 20 years, but I am just always struck by his competitive nature. And it kind of makes me realize that, darn, I probably knew all along which coaches would be successful and which wouldn't, because if you don't have that just competitive edge, it's hard to win at the University of Florida. And, this little tidbit actually happened off air, but TJ, my producer, is a Florida State fan, and he has a signed Bobby Bowden ball that was over his shoulder. And, we're kind of chatting or whatever, and Urban notices it. And he's like, is that a Florida State football? And TJ's like, yeah, I'm a Florida State fan. It was signed by Bobby Bowden, one of my most prized possessions, something like that. And he's like, man, if I was younger, that would really piss me off. And he was kind of serious. Like, he takes the rivalries that seriously. And I just cannot wait for the day that we have a coach that feels the same. Let's see what else we got. DJ is definitely a question mark for me. I love the guy, but he definitely has been a disappointment. Yeah, I'm interested to see when he's healthy and when he's with a real quarterback coach if a difference can be made there, if he chooses to stay. Will Lagway have 3 or 5 INTs? If those are my choices, give me 3. I hope Jaden gets his 1,000 yards. I was going to have a field day. He threw for 11,000 yards and 93 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Urban Meyer's going to be there to bring us luck. He is. Hayden Hansen will have 23 catches for 12 yards. Allie, do you think this Summerall news hurts or helps Florida getting Kiffin? So that whole situation is interesting to me. The source was interesting because I find it hard to believe the story goes out if the UAA hasn't blessed it, which it's been said now that it wasn't a Florida source, like the initial leak about the meeting. But Zach's not the kind of guy to throw things out there. So I think that the meeting was scheduled, or at the very least, Zach was told the meeting was scheduled. And I don't know that I don't buy that it didn't come from Florida, which is interesting. I also think it's interesting that it's never gotten out that quickly. It's never gotten out beforehand that Florida was having a meeting with anybody. We heard Florida was targeting Lane, but we never had any of Florida's actual beat writers that show up to press conferences say, hey, this meeting is happening on Tuesday, or anything like that, like this. This report was different than anyone that we had, which made it feel, I don't know, maybe planted. I don't know who by. I don't know if that's Florida trying to get Kiffin to make a decision. I don't know if that was Summerall trying to get Kiffin to make a decision. I don't know. I mean, and Summerall has since come out and said that that's not true, or the meeting's canceled, or, whatever he has. I'm not really sure who benefits from that situation. I don't necessarily think it hurts or helps Florida. I just find it an odd, I don't know. I find it an odd piece of information. I think Summerall ends up as the head coach at Auburn for what it's worth. Let's see. I think we should let the others get some burn. We're not winning anything special this year. Yeah, play all the young guys, but also win. Whatever they do, please don't get Summerall. He's a special coach for sure. Beat the Vols. Urban will never come back. That's true. I mean, he's done. But let's have him come back as our as an ambassador for the university. Let's embrace him. Let's put him in the Ring of Honor. Billy G's press conferences are refreshing. We get real talk and real info. Hate to hear about Gubs too. Yeah, I absolutely love Billy G's press conferences. That's the kind of press conference I want to hear. I don't need an hour of fluff that basically told me nothing. Like, give me some real info, and he does. And then wouldn't it be incredible if Florida could just have full 4-quarter great game on Saturday? Listen, from your lips to God's ears, Mike. Okay, so Florida returns home to the Swamp Saturday night for what should be just another November game between a 3-7 team and a pretty darn good ranked Tennessee squad. But it's not. We have ABC looks at the entire SEC slate, including Oklahoma, Missouri, and Texas, Arkansas, and still chose Florida, Tennessee for the primetime slot, 7:30. Chris Fowler, Kurt Herbstreit, Holly Rowe. So think about this. Florida, 3-7, Florida is the biggest TV window of the week. And I think that it says everything about this rivalry. It says everything about Florida's brand. And it says everything about the Swamp. Tennessee hasn't won here since 2003. 10 straight losses by an average of 15.7 points. So, yes, Tennessee is favored by 3.5. Yes, Florida is injured. probably exhausted, mentally drained, and out of bowl contention. But this game still matters, and the numbers prove it. Florida ranks 8th in the nation in total TV viewership this season. That's higher than many ranked programs, despite the fact that they're 3-7. Gator football still moves the needle. And on Saturday night, with the whole country watching, these players also have a chance to make a statement. And I think that that is key. They're auditioning for whoever their next coach is, whether they stay at Florida or they don't. They're playing for the patch. They're showing what this stadium, one of the most electric in the country, is like at night. And I think it's big. So what I'm going to do now is what I do every week. I'm going to go over some keys to victory for Tennessee, some keys to victory for Florida, the 5 things I want to see out of our Gators, make a prediction, and then we're going to get out of here. Okay, so 5 keys to victory for Tennessee. I think that they should try to exploit Florida's depth issues. We have injuries. We have a thin rotation. Tennessee must push pace and force Florida to defend for 4 quarters. Playing 4 quarters, which you're going to hear me talk about this in a minute, that's a struggle for the Gators. And then they should pressure Lagway early, often. If he has a clean pocket, he is dangerous. Under duress, not always so good. And I think that Tennessee's front has to dictate the tone if they want to win this one. And then they need to win first down against the run. If Florida is stuck behind the chains, the whole offense sputters. Tennessee needs to stuff the run early and force predictable passing situations. Florida's not good on 3rd and long. We've seen that for 3.5 seasons. If they force that, it puts Florida in a bad situation. And then Tennessee needs to execute in the red zone. Field goals don't win rivalry games in the swamp. Tennessee will need touchdowns if they get inside the 20. If they walk away with field goals, they will lose. And then they need to try and handle the swamp. This is not just another venue. It is a night game. ABC, Fowler Herb Street. Tennessee hasn't won in Gainesville in 22 years for a reason. They're going to have to survive our crowd noise, the chaos, and the momentum swings. And, they're from Neyland Stadium. They know what a loud, crazy crowd sounds like. But this one's going to be after them, not behind them. So, that makes it different. All right, the important part. 5 keys to victory for Florida. Number 1, DJ Lagway must protect the football. Do not give Tennessee any gift wrap turnovers. Don't give him any short fields. Lagway doesn't need to be a superhero. He needs to be efficient. He needs to be smart. He needs to be a game manager. Number 2 is they need to establish a real running identity. I want to see Jaden Baugh all night long. I'm okay with a little bit of running back by committee, whatever. But Florida's going to need 4 to 5 yard chunks to keep the Vols honest. And they're going to need that to set up play action shots. Jaden Baugh's the best player on offense right now, especially that's healthy. Use him. Number 3, we have talked about this ad nauseum on this show. Finish the 4th quarter. This is the story of the season. 3 great quarters, 1 meltdown. Florida's got to show toughness and poise when fatigue hits. They have got to be able to handle the fact that they are thin. They are going to be tired. Finish the mission. And then number 4, use the swamp as a weapon. It is going to be so loud. There is going to be momentum swings. There is going to be so much emotion. I'm going to guess that Urban Meyer is probably going to speak to the team in the locker room. I don't know that for a fact. That makes sense to me. He's in the stands. There's going to be a lot of his former players back to watch. The crowd is going to be electric. The crowd can tilt this game. Make Tennessee uncomfortable from the first snap. Make it so they can't hear, pressure them. The crowd can be a factor in this one. And then 5, give me some discipline in situational football. 3rd downs, red zone efficiency, end of half management. These moments have cost Florida over the last couple of seasons, and they need to flip that script. I do think that last week, Billy Gonzalez did very well with this. Kentucky game is such an enigma to me. Georgia game, he did really well with this too. There weren't a million stupid penalties. We weren't mismanaging going into half, coming out of half. We need to be strong in those areas, show discipline if we want to win this. Herb should talk to the team. I would guess he is. I don't know. I don't know that for a fact, but that would make sense to me, especially with Billy Gonzalez as the interim. You're bringing your daughter to the first game of the Swamp. I love that so much. That's awesome. My daughters will be there too. We cannot wait. Okay, so the 5 things that I need to see from our Gators this weekend. Went over that 4 quarters of full effort. They have given heart all year, but give it to us for 60 minutes. They have fought too hard to keep losing in the same way. Number 2, I need to see some tangible growth from Lagway. His decision making, his pocket presence, his confidence. These big rivalry games build quarterbacks or break them. I want to see some growth. And then offensive creativity, motion, tempo, misdirection. Let Gonzalez cook. There is nothing to lose. Open the playbook. You guys know he's dying to go 5 wide. Something. What do you have to lose? And then defensive grit, especially in big moments. 1 fourth quarter stop, 1 key moment where somebody steps up. That is all it takes to flip momentum in a rivalry game. And then number 5, play like the nation is watching, because it is. Primetime, ABC, Fowler, Hurd Street, Holly Rowe, the entire nation tuning in. I want to see a team that understands the stage they're playing on Saturday night and rises to the occasion. All right, guys, it is prediction time. Tennessee is ranked. Tennessee is favored. Florida is 3-7. Nationally, this looks like a mismatch. The rivalry games don't care about records. They don't care about perceived mismatches. The Swamp doesn't care about point spreads. And Tennessee hasn't walked out of Gainesville with a win in 22 years. I think Florida puts it together. I think the crowd matters. I think the heart that we've seen for 3 quarters finally shows up for all 4. And I'm going to predict Florida wins 27-23. I am really genuinely excited for this weekend. I feel hopeful about the path of Florida football. I do think that we're really close to getting a new coach. I do think at this point it will probably be Lane Kiffin. All signs point that way. I think that it's a really good time to be a Gator, and I think that the sun is coming out of all that horrible weather that we have had recently. And a big win in the Swamp against Tennessee is going to go a long way for this team and for these fans. So bring it on Saturday night. Be loud. Get excited. Let's win this one. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And as always, go Gators.